blah, 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 blah. Actually, there's a lot of blah blah in this film.
I know.
Okay, here I leave you with a movie. Enjoy. See you later. Talk to you later. MySpace me. Bye bye. Au revoir.
This is Louis Forthdale, July 17th, 1978, TL 4011B, Topics in Communication. Our guest speaker today is...
Who are familiar with Marshall McLuhan, born in Edmonton, moved to Winnipeg when he was 3.
He was actually 4.
Grew up here, went to Kelvin, just like Neil. Video with the guy with the shopping cart and the TV, 1990, Freedom. The phrase he got known for...
Professor Marshall McLuhan from the University of Toronto. All of you know Professor McLuhan, all of you know his credentials. I talked with you on the first day about my feelings about him as one of the towering people in the 20th century in the field of communication. I'd like to say something else now at a much more personal level. I've known Marshall for 30 years now, it develops. We were talking about it last night. I invited him to come down to TC for a session which I described in our first period. And we have developed through the years a kind of a close, distant friendship in which we see each other once or twice a year and exchange letters and so forth, and I've come to regard him as not only one of the towering intellectual figures in the field of communication, but also as there's a side of him which I admire tremendously too, and that's a personal loyalty, which I would like to express my appreciation for Marshall. It's a great privilege to...
The Descent into the Maelstrom, which had a great influence in French symbolist art, it appealed very much to Baudelaire, is concerned with this sailor who is caught in the vortex of the big whirlpool. And he begins to study the way it works. And he sees that some things go down and disappear and some things pop up again. And he attaches himself to one of these recurring objects and survives.
To have someone who remains a loyal friend for so long over a span of space. What I propose doing, since this friendship has got us kind of on the same wavelength, is engaging in it, at least in the beginning of the session, in a dialogue format, in which I'm going to pose some questions, generally as a devil's advocate because I know the answers, but pose the questions of the kind that I think would be interesting for the group to get involved with. At a certain point when we get going, give us a little while to get underway, then I would welcome you coming in, I always reserving the right to try to steer us back to what I think of as the course we might be taking because of inside information I have of where he's been and where he's going, I think. Okay, it's a Mutt and Jeff act that we sometimes do. Anybody remember Mutt and Jeff?
Meet me, Mutt.
This is one of the expressions in the old comic strip.
Mutt and Jeff, a comic strip in which Mutt is, or Jeff is a short one, and Mutt is, and the other one
Lanky, yeah.
is a lanky one. Well, let us begin our dialogue. Marshall, it seems to me that in looking back over your work,
Intérieur,
which is quite numerous indeed, 14, 15 books, 1,000 magazine articles, 1,000 speeches, the basic thrust of the thing has been, it seems to me, to invite our attention to the necessity of looking at the form of media and what the form of media does to our sensibility and to human arrangements, rather than attending only to content. Now, I toss that out to you as whether you think that is, as a beginning kind of, well, generalization.
I wish I had time to eulogize my friend Lou, but he has invited us to plunge right in here. And who is Marshall McLuhan, was the question. Well, that's supposed to be a sick joke. Are there any sick jokes about McLuhan? Who is Marshall McLuhan? What is the grievance behind the sick joke?
And when one speaks, what is that then?
Prose.
What? When I say, Nicole?
Nicole, apportez-moi mes pantoufles et me donnez mon bonnet de nuit. C'est de la prose. Oui, monsieur.
Montaigne's idea of the printed word, he said, service environments have taken the place of political policies. Or so it seems. Now, remember, I should always add, policies no longer matter, because whether your electric light is provided by Republicans or Democrats is rather unimportant. Montaigne's idea of the printed word, he said, gives you the feeling of everything you write is a message in a bottle.
Down in Oakland, that had a singing group, some older dudes, they put that real soulful, like,
provided by Republicans or Democrats is rather,
like people,
by the way,
like this, people swore that was a sample.
rather unimportant compared to the service of light and power and all the other kinds of services that go with our cities.
When we're on the telephone, we are on the air, and on the air we do not have any physical body.
And anything I say that is the way it seems.
On the subject of, is television possibly discouraging something that's very valuable? Do you privately feel that perhaps it is, for example, killing conversation, making it impossible for
TV
people
makes
to...
possible talk shows.
I thought there was lightning in my house.
No, it makes talk shows possible.
It demands audience participation. You cannot have a TV show without an audience.
Those of what we would now call an extremely backward country, in which they use not their eyes, but their whole sensorium. They would practically live in a world of ESP. When your whole sensorium is in action, you don't... But we now live electrically in a non-Euclidean world. The Euclid has been phased out because the eye has gone back into the rest of the sensorium.
All situations are made up of an area of attention called figure.
But they don't do any of the talking. They sit there and...
They participate the way they do in football, and without a public, there is no game. And I'm not wanting to take over the show. You go ahead.
How will right now
new literary
be transmitted
later.
Oh, you weren't, nor were you accused of that. You know, maybe I can't ask you this thing then that I've thought of asking you.
Easterbrook likes to talk of your taking over seminars and becoming the professor.
For Edmonton, yeah. Service environments have taken the place of political policies. At the moment, gives you the feeling of everything you write is a message in a bottle. You scribble it down here and you throw it out there.
Now, one of the schizoid things, and I think this bears out, that schizophrenia is something that's quite proper to a print culture.
It is inevitable. The eye and the ear just are totally divorced.
Yeah.
And everything you hear is at variance with everything that you see.
Yeah.
Joyce said about Finnegan's Wake, what the reader sees and what the reader hears, two totally different things.
It's funny, the internet is here. They don't know what the hell is going on with the internet. What they're talking about is what Dad was talking about in the 70s. And in the 70s, he was talking about the 70s. So now they're noticing the 70s, and they're calling it now.
Information movement. The global village is at once as wide as the planet and as small as a little town where everybody is maliciously engaged and poking his nose into everybody else's business. The global village is a world in which you don't necessarily have harmony. You have extreme concern with everybody else's business and much involvement in everybody else's life. It's a sort of Ann Landers column writ large. And it doesn't necessarily mean harmony and peace and quiet, but it does mean huge involvement. And this, he says, comes from using two actions, one against the other. I was very lucky to grow up in a society where there were no classes of any sort. Yeah. The two double action gives you the emotion of multitude. This is the way it is for everybody. That's what the emotion of multitude is. Feeling of universality, archetypal. My concern is conversation in which I make the discoveries. I make most of my discoveries while talking, not while writing. Well, for example, when I look up the word read and find that it means to guess, I couldn't bear multi-locational art.
Anything I've ever
That's fascinating.
I have no desire to move into the world that I understand so well.
So Xerox, the electric thing, is a complete revolution.
And that's precisely why
And it's away from the eye.
I do not wish
It's all back to the ear again.
to move into it.
It's all acoustic.
Because I understand it, I much prefer the old mildewed world of the 18th century book.
People leapt from childhood into adulthood overnight. This is what happens under electric conditions again. There is no really childhood is disappearing.
Responsibility, instead of just a sort of a private subconscious, they are artists. Remember, an artist is primarily concerned with getting your attention. Whether he's a poet or a musician, his first wish and hope is to trap your attention.
So for example, why not use example?
245 on there is a slight number just anywhere, 245.
Joyce said about Finnegan's Wake, what the reader sees and what the reader hears, two totally different things.
And the cognitive and affective domains are separated.
Print culture is inevitable.
Feelings are crapped on, you know.
And then print culture is inevitably hypocritical. What it says and what it does has to be different.
Yeah.
Is this in some way related to the fact that the psychiatrists have mainly dealt with...
Walt Disney, by the way, was a Canadian.
Civilized person. Freud is an urban, literate man.
He is a complete victim of classified. We still live under the aegis of Freud's classifications of personality types. And
the point is, we've had a Marxist rumor, and we've had a Freudian without having read Freud.
Both McLuhan and Goffman should then have gone from there to high school and university in Winnipeg is, of course, even more unlikely.
Bow wow, bow wow. You can make a grammatical error after you've been to school.
And I think that McLuhan's contribution is that. That is, McLuhan is the best describer
of the environment. I think that we open the 20th century.
This was his idea, because up to that time, when he was writing, there was no public. Print was a great improvement of the older alphabetic writing. Print is a technology not only of movable types and of the first mechanization of a handicraft. It had all the startling implications that automation now has for us with regard to the reorganizing of work. Print reorganized the work pattern by specialism. Instead of a man knowing all aspects of his craft, he learned one operation only. And work was broken up into bits. Humpty Dumpty literally fell off the wall with print, and the types were scattered hither and thither. But print also created a new environment. Any technology creates a new environment, a new set of relationships among people. Print created the public. There was literally no public in Montaigne's time. It was just beginning to form with print. But,
well, that was the time when entertainment was all over.
Yeah. Before printing, no kind of handwriting was capable of creating a public. It wasn't strong enough or powerful enough technologically to create what is called a public. With print came into existence for the first time in human history, the public. The stage. Overnight, they moved into a new economic universe. Make something that is transportable and that can be used on a road system. And to read is to guess. And to guess, it runs in with the phrase, he who runs may read. The word run comes from room. To carry information. When you write on stone, you stay in the same place. You can't carry it with you. Yeah. And so the stone order is bureaucratic.
You know, if every author had to inscribe every one of his words on stone and were allowed 12 words a year, the levels of writing would go up.
You know, don't you Canada have it told you every telling is a tale, and that's the he and the she of it.
Now, this is a non-literate speech.
Type. With a price system that was stable.
A mass product, the book.
And uniform. But based on books. And so the stone order is bureaucratic but priestly. You get a priesthood out of the stone writing, and you get an army or military structure out of paper. Because they can carry the orders anywhere. A courier system. Yeah. So the Roman thing came out of, the Babylonian priesthoods came out of stone writing, and the Roman thing came out of paper.
This was the Broadway campus of the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg. Today, no one of the citizens is aware that this is the origin of the Winnipeg School of Communication.
University of Manitoba?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're in front of?
Of the Marshall McLuhan Hall.
Okay. And it happens to be 204, which incidentally is the area code for Winnipeg, but that's just an aside. Okay. Now.
Even not my test.
Okay. Well, you're not alone on that. The phrase, the medium is the message. Have you ever heard of that phrase?
I've heard that phrase somewhere. I don't remember the context.
Yeah.
But that looks familiar for me.
Okay, so as has said, it jogs your you have a memory somewhere.
With the big road systems and the armies all over the place. But this, I studied him very carefully and worked a good deal. Then I was working with anthropologists like Carpenter and so on at the same time, so we could compare the pre-literates. Montaigne's time, it was just beginning to form with print. But
well, that was the time when entertainment was all over.
If you can think of a sponsor or who ignores the audience, maybe the CBC in Canada.
The stage. Overnight, they moved into a new economic universe.
So that means
a big bureaucratic organization which
feels it's quite above the needs of the audience. And so it creates a great many unpopular shows. I wouldn't say they're especially interesting. They're just unpopular.
Of the printing press.
Godless. Usually when I'm in the rest of the country, I'm the only godless one, and then I won't feel like an asshole.
Whereas today, with the advent of a software electric environment, all of these things, it seems to me, profoundly relate to the rosary and to the church and the mystical body.
I'm doing a book called The Second God. Yeah, is he any relation to the first one?
Is he the political sex pistol?
Is wrong. It is almost inevitable that everybody will ignore the ground in which they work.
Ruled eventually by... The Americans have lost their sense of identity. That it's a guerrilla kind of warfare congenial to the American frontier temperament, and therefore may just conceivably have some relevance to the new electric age, which is certainly a frontier age. The country is falling apart physically, and what's happening, of course, to the presidency right now is, I think, related to things that have nothing to do with Watergate at all.
No, that's what I was interested in. I mean, how many thoughts can you cram in your head?
It isn't a question of how many thoughts. The fact is that when you confront the page at that speed, you apprehend it as a gestalt.
The Americans have lost their sense of identity.
With an assembly line, or with something approaching assembly line, every type of human resource, put it on the assembly line, it becomes a big, honest to goodness American citizens.
No, that's what I was interested in. I mean, how many thoughts can you cram in your head?
It isn't a question of how many thoughts. The fact is that when you confront the page at that speed, you apprehend it as a gestalt.
Now, that I can understand.
And that is a kind of figure ground, and that is depth. And it is a sort of iconology, it is a kind of sculptural approach to the page.
But
page ceases to be lineal at speed, by the way.
No, I can see that.
Yes, it ceases to be lineal, and you begin to take it as a gestalt.
But surely a reading is half of it is thinking as well as actually.
Remember, we went into that subject last night a bit, that it is guessing and it is judgment, it is decision making.
It's also meditation.
Yes, it can be all of those things, but it does require a very high degree of rapid judgment. Decision making.
Do you actually find that you understand a thing as well, or better, as some people said, when you read it speedily?
Well, again, it depends on what you're reading, but there are some things that you read and reread, but they're always different.
Do you think I could have read the Gutenberg Galaxy that way?
I don't know. But actually, you see, all you need from the Gutenberg Galaxy are maybe a few basic structural factors. Reminds me of something I want to get out of here. You do not have to improve.
The Americans have lost their sense of identity.
With an assembly line, or with something approaching assembly line, every type of human resource, put it on the assembly line, it becomes a big, honest to goodness American citizens. You do not have to improve.
Now, that I can understand.
And that is a kind of figure ground, and that is depth.
I never heard the phrase of word in my life. I have never ceased to meditate on that word. To meditate on that word. Acoustic space has a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose margin is nowhere. That is physically a fact about acoustic space. Psychologists don't know that.
Down and so on. All of this tends to get onto paper sooner or later, you see.
Absolutely. I mean, how could Daniel Ellsberg have, I mean, he spent several nights at Rand Corporation copying those Pentagon papers.
Eased out. But Robert Gaines gave traders. And never mentioned in the press.
It was originally known as the Watergate.
But how amazing that an apartment building in Washington should have been called that, and that it should in turn have been applied to Nixon. Namely with the
transparent overlays. Transparent overlays of organization cells. One was concerned entirely with communication, as a matter of fact, making sure that everybody knew everything that was pertinent to their particular job, and also ensuring that all the possible information from around the world could be fed into this organization. So it's a totally different principle, I think, of organization.
They never can look straight out at the environment. Only artists and antisocial children and such people dare look at the environment. The Mailer thing apropos women's lib has this rather large implication.
Yes, like what?
The language of one's, and the modes of one's environment is very rare. Only artists are.
Well, his whole. See, they were phonemes.
And you had to have two each read next to one.
Well, no, but the point is that when you use phonemes, you translate the acoustic into the visual. You see, when you're dealing with signs that are meaningless, you can take anything from any sphere and translate it into that meaningless, neutral category. They were unaware of the effects, he says. But this is typical. He makes statement after statement after statement. He doesn't develop them.
Yeah.
And I do that too, except that I am careful to make my statements annoying. Because I know that people are going to go sound asleep unless you annoy them very, very much. And
I'll have a look at it.
it belongs up on the top shelf.
On the top shelf.
There's also his Empire in Communications is here, which is a study of the growth of empires.
Speak that I may see thee.
Which is a study of the growth of empire through media.
I wish I'd learned speed reading before I came here.
You can't read him speed.
You can't?
Oh no, it's, each one is a separate thought.
The idea of visual is matching and auditory is making.
Well, certainly. Well, in visual space you have...
E.H. Gombrich has a book on this subject called Art and Illusion.
Yeah.
So it's always... And Eric Kavalog, similarly, a book called Preface to Plato, in which the same problem is thoroughly explored. But let's explain it right here and now.
Well, it's like Pascal. Oh yes, it's or La Rochefoucauld. You can't speed read La Rochefoucauld.
Okay, what can you speed read then?
You can vault it. Well, it's like Pascal. Oh yes, it's or La Rochefoucauld. You can't speed read La Rochefoucauld.
Okay, what can you speed read then?
You can Voltaire. The New York Times. I can read the New York Times in 20 minutes. Big fat tear. The New York Times. I can read the New York Times in 20 minutes, a big fat paper, because it's so nicely, smoothly written. The Globe and Mail takes me an hour.
Why?
It's all broken up into little pieces.
Oh yeah, so
Yes.
it's the going from one page to the next, that's a waste of time. Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful world, it created civilization.
A long time ago.
No cap, had to walk downtown, black waters.
don't believe me, let me ask you a question.
It created civilization in our senses.
Wonderful world. It created civilization.
Everybody into itself, and it's called civilization. Civilization means that everybody is the same, and everybody is equal before the law, written law.
A long time ago.
I heard one about the guy who went to the drugstore to pick up a few items for his wife, and he got 2 or 3 of them, then he realized there was one other thing. He couldn't remember. He sort of banged his fingers on it.
But everybody is equal before that written law. That is civilization, the kiwis, the sivas.
Yeah.
Now this idea of the kiwis does not exist except for the phonetic alphabet. It has never existed in any part of the world, any time, without the phonetic alphabet. But it is visual. Now the visual sense is homogeneous. It reduces everything to the same form. This is what we call modern science. It's all visual.
In other words, like what you're saying is that republic and democracy are totally a visual thing.
Totally from the phonetic alphabet, and will disappear very quickly with electricity.
Thought of Marshall McLuhan as the person who most defined the culture that we were moving into. And though it seems that many people are talking about it, that he alone had some insights to it long ago before it was ever very real. And the first issue of the magazine, as well as the prototype.
Therapy of the word concerns the work of the witch doctors and the shamans who did the cast the spells and so on, help people to get well. And the spells were cast in various art forms, lyric, epic, dramatic. Odes and so on were all part of the shaman's equipment. The genre of what we call the genre of literature began in the spells cast by witch doctors.
The electric thing is wiping out all our values.
Well, are we going back to monarchy or?
No, back to tribal chieftains, the occult.
And the shamans.
The drugstore to pick up a few items for his wife, and he got 2 or 3 of them, then he realized there was one other thing. He couldn't remember. He sort of banged his fingers on it. And then suddenly there's a babe that leaned over to pick up something off the floor in front of him. He says, "Got it, Bear aspirin."
Created civilization in our sense. It didn't create it.
Created a tremendous world.
What year is it?
Acceptability is a sort of credit card he can put on his public if he has the right image. If not, he's out of luck.
And the goals, the thing that gives them goals of a good life shows and the commercial.
This is pure hypocrisy on their part, but they don't know any better.
Went to the kitchen, Captain Crunch, turn on the tube.
Sort of credit card.
Me? What'd I do?
The infamous gate in the world.
The ballot box is now used to create.
If Nixon had been the captain of the Titanic, what would
create images that are pure business?
Well, you cut my housework in half. How'd I do that?
The Brady Bunch.
A few days ago in Toronto, a little picture in the paper. Some school kids dug up some money and they bought an out-of-door Ruddy Coaster sign, which they had written, "Happiness is happy Miss McKeon and Mr. Pratt."
And very oral and very tactile, kinetic, and not visual in the hierarchical sense.
Namely, their English teacher and their history teacher, both of whom were leaving the school. They put this on a big public sign right out on Bathurst Avenue. I was struck by this as a lyric personal use of a public medium. I knew it was going to happen sooner or later. I never heard of it happening.
the Women's Lib, and this program is related to that.
Liberation.
Women's Lib is an extreme form of violence and upset.
Maybe to you.
Entirely related to television and TV.
The audience and my...
Visit the American Museum of Natural History.
Self are buzzing at that remark. You better explain it quickly before we become violent.
TV, as a medium, fosters a very inclusive attitude to life, role-playing, in fact, not fragmented, specialized job holding. The nature of TV, with its inclusive acoustic character,
And so the men tend to be entirely in the left hemisphere in their training and their work. Women are much more inclined to be role players. That means multiple jobs. And so this, a mother all over the centuries has never had a job. She has a role.
The reason that most of you in this room find it difficult to imagine a goal in life is simply that you're living in an electric world where everything happens at once. It's hard to have a fixed point of view in a world where everything is happening simultaneously. Most of you in this room find it difficult to imagine a goal in life is simply that you're living in an electric world where everything happens at once. It's hard to have a fixed point of view in a world where everything is happening simultaneously.
They never can look straight out at the environment. Only artists and antisocial children and such people dare look at the environment. The emperor's new clothes are perfectly visible to them, but to well-adjusted, respectable people, the old clothes are what is seen.
He could never copy them by hand. And so he spent years trying to get them through Congress, as it were, with
the Americans have lost their sense of identity.
With an assembly line, or with something approaching assembly line, every type of human resource, put it on the assembly line, it becomes a big, honest to goodness American citizens. You do not have to improve their moral lives or their physical or social lives. You can put them on the assembly line instantly. And this was a part of the big flood of immigration to the USA.
Well, except they've become anything but free men.
Well, go on now, you're philosophizing. But they acquire wealth and independence and a bourgeois way of life and so on. They become Archie Bunkers. Sure. That's what happened to the assembly line American.
I don't think so.
They became Archie Bunkers.
Well, Archie Bunker is an all-American.
No, he's the American threatened.
Yeah, he's the American threatened by the immigrants.
No, threatened by a new way of life, the electric. He's not really threatened by the immigrant.
No, but he'll put it on the, he blamed the immigrants.
Oh, yes, exactly. Paranoia, though, comes from the phasing out of the American way of life by electricity.
No, okay, I agree that.
It's like when you're talking to a foreigner, you shout.
Yeah.
This is to overcome the difficulty of communication. By a new way of life, the electric. He's not really threatened by the immigrant.
No, but he'll put it on the, he blamed the immigrants.
Oh, yes, exactly. Paranoia, though, comes from the phasing out of the American way of life by electricity.
No, okay, I agree that.
It's like when you're talking to a foreigner, you shout.
Yeah.
This is to overcome the difficulty of communication. Okay, let's come on back to moralizing.
Okay. But, okay, so I can see a point as a scientist to not take a moral judgment.
Now, when you start talking about forms or structures, all you can say is this is the way it is made, and this is what it will do if you use it. The media, all media, whatever, have huge side effects, which in the Shannon-Weaver model are called no.
The country is falling apart physically and politically because of the speed of information. The American bureaucracy, political and educational, was set up for very slow speeds of the printed word and railways. At electric speeds, nothing in the USA makes sense.
New surround of electric information, which puts that whole hierarchy of rigid, organized, and specialized jobs and
functions. Well, the old image of organization used the term staff. Staff in line won't hold up anymore.
Oh, wow! The word that's now being used is participatory democracy.
Image, which means image making, in which you have to find people who will serve as an inclusive image for the whole community.
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
About a new gimmick called PWF, Puff, Pregnancy Without Fear. And it's explained this way. A pregnant woman arrives at a party, men fetch her canopies, women whisper about how radiant she looks.
It's just Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice.
Go ahead, change the channel. You'll be back.
The Academy of Television Arts and Sciences presents
Pioneer Days.
Pattern recognition.
Thompson, who stand back and just analyze instead of experiencing, never really have the experience. But at the same time, I don't think anybody is saved enormously just by giving themselves over to an experience completely and not it.
Last night on Responsive Brothers.
the 11th Annual Emmy Award.
Welcome back, stupid viewers.
What, go crying to mama or to television that they've been insulted or something?
But your generation doesn't tell jokes. Jigsaw, one piece.
We recognize how fortunate we are. Fortunate that these men and women can say what they believe, and that you who listen to them, if you don't like it, can turn to another channel. Thank you and good night.
Represents anything, you try to create a new, original, and striking image that will wow.
You'll watch anything.
An inclusive image for the whole community.
They were phonemes.
Under electric conditions, when people lowest down in the hierarchy can have access to just as much information as the president of the company. In great jeopardy. The entire character of a written constitution in the electric age is the thing that fascinates me and rather terrifies me, because there is nothing in the nature of the written constitution of the United States that makes it capable of coping with an electric environment of instant information. At the same moment. That's what's creating such a mess in our political lives. With TV, every night becomes election night. Oh yes, because Justice Cezanne and Seurat and Rouault all discovered the relevance, the new relevance of tactile patterns, as opposed to conspicuous pictorial patterns. They discovered these things 60 years ago, 70 years ago. So characteristics at all. Under electric media, just have a world trial. Probably to be ruled eventually by Pat.
I ask you, what is our most cherished right since Pioneer Days?
Pattern recognition.
Thompson, who stand back and just analyze instead of experiencing, never really have the experience. But at the same time, I don't think anybody is saved enormously just by giving themselves over to an experience completely and not it.
Last night on Responsive Brothers. And if you take away the date line from any newspaper or whatever, you have a quite handsome surrealist poem.
Sarah Lawrence, Bennington, and there's others.
But the Chinese have it for another reason. They wish to hold on to the integrity of their society as much as possible. So instead of...
The author of a book called The Medium is the Message, and he came to New York last night so that he could watch the debates, watch them not so much from a policy point of view, but from a television point of view.
Under proper supervision. Governor Carter? Well, one of the very serious things that's happened in our government in recent years, and has continued...
You get me Mr. Moynihan. He's either at the UN or at Harvard.
How could Daniel Ellsberg have... I mean, he spent several nights at Rand Corporation copying...
Dr. Monahan, please, sir.
He could never copy them by hand.
Hello?
Good morning, Mr. President.
Where are you?
I'm in New York writing a speech.
Have you got a minute or is it bad time?
I do, sir.
In fact, I'm writing a speech and I'm delivering tonight at 7:30, so we're right in the middle of it. But it's brief, so you can listen. 14 minutes is... Does your retention time that long?
I never...
Don't admit it. Yeah.
Up until now, is a breakdown in the trust among our people and the pool broadcasters from Philadelphia have temporarily lost the audio. It is not a conspiracy against Governor Carter or President Ford, and they will fix it as soon as possible.
Never really have the experience, but at the same time, I don't think anybody is...
How did you watch the debates? On a number of television sets?
Yes, I saw it on black and white and two different kinds of color. CBS color and NBC color. They seem to be quite different on the set I was watching.
Well, it might have been the set.
Might have been the set. On the other hand, the glorious moment was the rebellion of the medium against the bloody message.
And they will fix it as soon as possible.
The medium finally rebelled against the most stupid arrangement of any debate in the history of debating.
Why was it stupid? Not from a
scripting point of view.
Remember, Pat Paulson was asked if he were going to run for president. And he said, no. Didn't you once on an ABC program say you were going to run for president?
Kris Kringle spoke all his prose in telegraphese.
And on the one hand this, and on the other hand that.
An ABC program say you were going to run for president? No. So they said, well, wait and watch this. So they played an ABC program in which he definitely announced he was going to run for president. And they said, well, what do you got to say to that? He said, I've been misquoted.
So he was, Mr. Jingle wrote all his prose in telegrams.
Mr. Jingle, in Pickwick Papers, talks only in telegraph terms.
New rhythms.
And went on to TV and talked straight to his people on an educational basis. He turned politics into education. This is the crime that Trudeau's been accused of by Peter Newman. You see, the electricity puts your nervous system outside as an environment.
I'd like 5 seconds to raise your hand.
Well, again, we might disagree on open and close, you see, because I call the ear closed and the eye open. But some people turn it around the other way. It doesn't matter. As long as they're both there, that's what matters.
The God who made a clock-like universe and wound it up and started going, he withdrew, he left, he died a long time ago.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
That is the God that is dead. That is the only one that is being observed. The Newtonian universe.
I've taken children's recordings and assumed that their concept of media is identical with their concept of God.
Well, look, now that's very important. The discovery that when you're on the telephone or on the air, you don't have a physical body.
Yeah.
When you don't have a physical body, you don't have an identity.
Going back to the pastoral. With the advent of the book, the church became a book religion. Whereas today, with the advent of a software electric environment, the church is beginning to mistake the new electric environment for the mystical body itself.
Now, I think what we're saying here is that there's a desperate human need to understand these processes and a great need to avoid value judgments until we understand them. We don't have a clue as to who to blame for anything, really. The act of placing the blame is itself escapism. Value judgments in these matters are pure escapism.
Now, I'm perfectly capable of moralizing.
They serve that function of taking us off the hook.
Entertainment was all over.
Yeah. And because up to that time, when he was writing, there was no public. There was literally no public in Montaigne's time. It was just beginning to form with print. There was literally no public in Montaigne's time. There was literally no public in Montaigne's time. Gives you the feeling of everything you write is a message in a bottle. It was just beginning to form with print. But
well, that was a time when entertainment was all oral.
Oral tradition emphasized memory and training. We have no history of conversation or of the oral tradition except as they are revealed darkly through the written or the printed word. The drama reflected the power of the oral tradition, but its flowering for only a short period in Greece and in England and illustrates its difficulties. The oral tradition soon phased itself out. Minerva's owl is the opening essay, and that, means it's Hegel's phrase that the owl of Minerva takes its flight at twilight.
Oh, yeah.
When things are just about over, then wisdom is born. So, this is right off, it's a bias of communication.
What about the synchronical delay? That delay could mean stuff. Does that mean?
Something
like a nightclub scene.
Yeah, it could be, it could suggest something very dark and glamorous, something could suggest a very...
nightclub scene.
Yeah, it could be a nightclub scene. I mean, how did you ever miss such a thing? You had a deep, husky voice, give you a mic, and you probably could make all sorts of sounds.
What was that sound? Yeah, the stage. The mystical body itself has been tending... And 100 years later, there's a big public for the printed word. That they're merging themselves in this new electric environment as if it were the mystical body.
Yeah, I'm doing a book called The Second God.
Yeah, is there any relation to the first one?
Well, you see, I say the first God created man, and he's been trying to make man moral ever since. And man created the second God, and he's trying to make that moral.
And 100 years later, there's a big public for the printed word.
By the way, I have one of my basic things lately has been the discovery that when you're on the telephone or on the air, you don't have a physical body.
Yeah.
When you don't have a physical body, you don't have an identity. When you don't have an identity, you don't have any morals.
This is a wonderful example of our irrelevance. The NASA.
And that's when Monsieur Jourdain comes up with his famous remark about talking prose.
They're of utter bane to all understanding of the human psyche. There's a phrase of Joyce which ends it all. Young and easily frightened. The whole team was highly literate without knowing it, and imposed a batch of categories upon psychic life which are terrifying only to the young and who are easily frightened.
Well, it's the same thing in any place. It's this whole insight into the fact that this was a hidden environment, this habit of thought.
The mind, remember, works much faster than electricity. The speed of light is very slow compared to the speed of thought. Literally, the speed of light is not a fraction of the speed of thought. So the possibilities, therefore, of controlling our technologies are considerable if we choose to study them. The mind, remember, works much faster than electricity.
Eric Goldman on the program The Open Mind.
The speed of light is very slow compared to the speed of thought.
Professor McLuhan said...
The Petronius, the world of funny stories, including...
Compared to the speed of thought.
Professor McLuhan said that you don't discover...
Literally, the speed of light is not a fraction of the speed of thought.
The kids, the awful struggle is the real pressure cooker.
Simultaneous. The electric thing is simultaneous, and therefore...
The kids who are the natural citizens of this electronic world.
Structural.
Commitment is not goal-oriented. It's involvement. You don't ask a man...
So you've got the slowest environment and the fastest people together. Now, so that's why schools are going to get
that is called a gap.
In swimming, what's your point of view with regard to swimming?
A generation gap.
In a way, it's the royal divorce that Joyce talks about all the time, is the divorce of the senses.
Which occurred with the advent of the written word.
Well, it's the same thing in any place. It's this whole insight into the fact that this was a hidden environment.
Of the written word.
This habit of thought.
The word became the static symbol, applicable to and separate from that which is symbolized. It now belonged to the objective world, It could be seen. It was a thing. Now came the distinction between being and meaning.
Baby, this thing is bigger than all of us.
Whence did the wondrous mystic art arise of painting speech and speaking to the eyes, that we by tracing magic lines are taught how to embody and to color thought?
Well, you know, it's the same thing in any place. It's this whole insight into the fact that this was a hidden environment, this habit of thought.
Writing did not merely record language, it was a totally new medium of expression and communication which the spoken word came in turn to imitate. Totally new medium of expression and communication which the spoken word came in turn to imitate.
What you're recording there is not prose, you see.
Which I've never seen except for that scene. Scene.
I heard what you were...
Well, the first movies. The first movies put on the old opera and the old music hall, the old forms of entertainment. The Chaplins, you see, came off the music hall, and the Buster Keatons.
With Woody Allen.
Come over here a second. Oh, I heard what you were saying. I heard what you were reading, and you have completely misconstrued everything I've said. You know nothing of my work. You mean my whole fallacy is wrong.
With Woody Allen. So you haven't said anything about him.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen him in action. I mean, I haven't been to a movie of his.
Oh, wow. You like him. If you like Chaplin, you like Allen.
Moscow.
What about this TV season? This is fun.
Sometimes I actually make a typographic error.
What do you think is interesting about the new TV season?
I haven't had too much time, but I have been watching a bit of the Invisible Man. I've seen 2 episodes. They're pretty good. But there are lots of new ones on, like the Beacon Hill.
Yeah, that's terrific. We like the upstage downstairs.
Well, I've only seen 2 episodes of Beacon Hill.
To which the electric age brings us back so rapidly. Finn again, only this time wide awake. Fun for all.
And the title itself is one of these rubbings of cliches together. Finn, the Finn cycle, the Finnegan, and Finnegan, Michael Finnegan. World of Jung and Freud is the world of the unconscious. Now, in tribal society, there is no unconscious. It's only the visual man, the highly literate man, who carefully stuffs things into his unconscious. The tribal man has everything up in his consciousness. The old song about he had whiskers on his chin again, long came the wind and blew them in again, poor Michael Finnegan, begin again. Now,
Fun for all
is the American humor. That was America is one of my first essays. Monday is the power.
In the house, yeah.
Oh, power.
Fun for
and
all.
So is the American woman. Dagwood's America is one of my first essays. The American male has no power. Well, avant-garde just means where it's at, as that sort of seedy. He is hopelessly feeble male being that is the typical American man. Came with radio. Whose ego, has and very, very radio tribalized North America too. Jazz. Very.
Yeah.
And jazz is a tribal form.
Fun for all. Funeral. Fun for all at Finnegan's Wake. Pop culture and high culture. Finnegan's Wake. Pop culture and high culture. Finnegan's Wake. Pop culture and high culture.
This reminds me of the scene in Annie Hall.
Reading, and you have completely misconstrued everything I've said. And I agree with, if I had said that, I would agree with it.
Always has, always will. That's the meaning of the word. Garb, age, is clothing. When you put new clothing around anybody, look at me.
And you call it mass age. Massage, you call mess age.
I would mostly call this Osborne Village. Yeah. Ever
heard of the phrase the global village? Yes, yes, yes.
And I can't fucking see shit. Google was initially called back rub. So there's your connection. Accidentally called medium is the massage, a play on his own thing, just like Google 10 to the power of 100.
We had the slightest consciousness. We would teach our children in our schools how to protect themselves against media fallout and advertising fallout.